What was Shroyer charged with? Being in a restricted area. That's it. And for this, they drafted up this recommendation saying his speech on his show said the election was stolen and that he hates tyranny, so he needs 3 months. Hold on. What, was he charged with insurrection? Was he charged with incitement? No, he was charged with effectively trespass. So in what way is it relevant? It's because these people are cultists. It's entirely political. And I think this is another grain of sand in the heap of evidence. We know that what they're doing to the January 6 individuals, not all of them, but many of them, and if not the majority of them, and people like Owen Shroyer and Donald Trump and these others, is political persecution through prosecution for political power.
I think you're right. I think Shroyer's experience is really interesting because there's obviously antipathy on the part of the government. They want him to be yet another person who is dangerous and therefore needs to be locked up. And I think ultimately it's really interesting. He's being represented by Norm Pattis, who also represented Joe Biggs and Zach Reels, if I'm not mistaken. These are very different cases. Obviously, the Proud Boys were charged with seditious conspiracy, and you can argue if that was fair or right or not. But in this case, he never entered the building. He stood outside and yelled a bunch of stuff. And they are saying, therefore, he deserves to go to jail on this charge. It seems like they will never let this panic that they manufactured die.
It's a totally manufactured panic. And it's interesting, too, because a lot of the January 6th people who have already been arrested, detained, prosecuted, charged, sentenced were like the littler people, the people whose names you don't know, like the grandmas from Illinois or whatever, who now don't really get a hearing. You saw sometimes they would come on Tucker Carlson's show on Fox and they would talk about it and they would talk about what's going on with them. But they were people whose names you didn't know. And now they're using all of the precedents, all of the like heavy-handed prosecution that they staged against these smaller people who you didn't know, whose cases only really Julie Kelly was following, and they're using those same precedents to go after people whose names you do know. And they're going to use those same precedents that they're doing now against Shroyer and the Proud Boys and all of those guys to go after Trump because it's the same judge.
Yeah.
I mean, Chutkan is the same judge. And Chutkan hates Trump, has said that, has her own opinions. And then they're using all of this, too, to try and get Trump off the ballot. And I think it's very important to note that no one has been charged with insurrection. Like, that's not, if you go to a search, it's just not there in the DOJ documents of people charged with, January 6th stuff.
I want to jump to the statement the DOJ made in their quote when they said that they have to consider that Shroyer's conduct, like the conduct of hundreds of other rioters, took place in the context of a large and violent riot. Heavens me. Owen Shroyer yelled death to tyrants. Shocking. Wow. I wonder how much prison time Ray Epps is going to get for literally telling people to go into the Capitol and then being there right when the barricade was torn down and they gave Joe Biggs 20 years. So Ray Epps, what's he going to get, 50? Life?
He's going to get nothing. You already saw the Washington Post, the New York Times, and everybody else coming out saying, like, Ray Epps did nothing wrong. It's literally everybody else who did something wrong, even though we have videos.
But he is the one hero.
He's the one guy that we have seen doing the thing that
but somehow he's defensible. I think it's interesting, too. Like the cops that gave the shaman a tour around the Capitol, I haven't heard anything about disciplinary action happening for them, right?
No,
like,
of course
there
not.
is no fallout for people who, whether we can say it was mistaken or on purpose, facilitated actual things that then people were sent to jail for.
Or the cop who shot an unarmed woman.
Nothing. And that's crazy. I think your point that they have been building up to this for so long is so interesting because often when I'm writing these stories, the statement comes across and it's from the DOJ that over 1,000 people have been charged in connection with January 6th, over 600 have been sentenced, and over 300 are in prison at this moment. And when I read that sentence, I am horrified.
It's
right?
horrifying.
I feel that way because I obviously have a perspective on January 6th that, left-wing mainstream media doesn't. When they hear the same statistics that over 1,000 people have been charged, that over 600 people have been sentenced, and that over 300 are in jail, they think, good job, we're getting them.
But it's also
that's
so insane.
Freaky.
Like in Portland in the summer of 2020, they rioted for over 100 nights straight. They tried to burn down a federal courthouse. Donald Trump was like, we really should send in the National Guard. And the governor was like, no,
don't
we hate you.